The night was darker than usual. The sky above rural Pennsylvania was clouded. No stars, no moon. Just a black canvas that seemed to swallow the empty highway whole. My fuel gauge was sinking fast, the glowing red light stabbing into my nerves with every mile. There hadn't been another car for the last 40 minutes, and the silence was so heavy that I could hear the faint hum of my own heartbeat. Then out of nowhere, a flicker of light appeared at the edge of the road. A faded neon sign. Gas, open 24 hours. Relief washed over me, but only for a second. The station looked ancient, its roof sagging, windows dusted with grime. The forecourt was drenched in dim yellow light from a single flickering lamp. No other cars. No sound except the wind whistling through broken siding. I pulled in, engine rattling in the silence. My headlights lit up the cracked gas pumps, old, rusted things that looked like they hadn't been serviced in decades. The numbers on the screen didn't even move until I tapped the pump. It groaned awake, spitting a hiss like a dying animal. That's when I noticed him. A man stood behind the station's glass door. He hadn't been there a second ago. He was tall, his uniform crisp, but his skin was pale, almost gray, and his face looked waxy, frozen in an expression that wasn't quite a smile, wasn't quite a frown. His eyes were the worst, completely blank. No light in them, just empty. He didn't come outside. He didn't wave. He just stared at me, unmoving, as I filled my tank. A prickle ran down my spine. I told myself it was just exhaustion, paranoia from driving too long. But when I glanced back at the pump, I froze. The meter wasn't showing gallons or price. It was flashing numbers rapidly, too fast to read, like a slot machine spinning out of control. Then the pump jerked in my hand as though someone else had gripped it. I dropped it immediately. The hose snapped back, spraying the ground with gasoline. The man inside the station was still staring at me. Only now his face was closer, pressed against the glass. His mouth stretched wider, into something grotesque, teeth long and uneven like shattered glass. I stumbled back toward my car. My pulse hammered. Then I heard it. A whisper. Not from him. Not from anywhere I could see. It came from the pump, from the ground, from the shadows wrapping around the station. Hundreds of voices whispering at once, raspy, hollow. They were saying my name. I yanked open the car door, threw myself inside, and twisted the key. The engine coughed, choked, then died. I tried again. Nothing. The whispers grew louder, layering over each other until it felt like they were crawling inside my head. I could feel something warm trickling from my nose. Blood. I looked up at the glass window. The man was gone. But I wasn't alone. From the rearview mirror in the back seat of my car, I saw the pale face of the gas station attendant, sitting silently, his empty eyes locked on mine. And then, he smiled. I froze in my seat, too terrified to breathe. The rearview mirror showed him clearly, sitting in the back seat like he had been there all along. His skin looked stretched, waxy, almost translucent, and his lips peeled back into that impossible smile. I spun around, but the seat was empty. Nothing there. My chest heaved, sweat running down my neck, but when I looked back at the mirror, he was still there. The reflection hadn't changed. His blank eyes stared into mine, though the seat behind me was bare. The whispers outside twisted into laughter, dry, broken like a radio picking up signals from another world. I slammed my fists against the wheel, desperate to start the engine again. On the third try, the car roared alive. Headlights pierced the dark as I slammed into gear and floored the gas. Gravel sprayed, the car shot forward, and I felt a jolt of relief. But I never left. The road stretched on, and the gas station never faded behind me. No matter how fast I drove, the cracked pumps, the flickering lamp, the broken sign, they stayed in the distance, exactly the same, like I was stuck in a loop. I hit the brakes. Tires screeched, smoke rising into the cold night air. The steering wheel trembled violently in my grip. When the car finally stopped, I realized the gas station was no longer behind me. It was in front of me. The same sagging roof, the same flickering lamp, the same cracked pumps waiting like rusted skeletons. A shape stood at the doorway. Not the attendant. Something else. Its body was tall and thin, but it moved like smoke, shivering in and out of focus. Arms too long, dragging against the glass. Its head tilted, bones cracking with the motion, as though it was listening to my heartbeat. Then the station lights died. Every bulb inside shattered with a sound like bones snapping, plunging the place into complete blackness. For a moment, only the sound of my own pulse filled the air. Then, headlights blinked on behind me. I turned. A truck. Old, massive, its engine rattling. The cab was dark, but I could see a figure slumped in the driver's seat. The truck edged closer, its tires crunching gravel, blocking the road like a predator herding prey. My car shook as the truck's horn screamed. Long, piercing, unnatural. It didn't sound mechanical. It sounded like a human scream, dozens of them, layered together, echoing from inside the cab. The station lights flickered back on, dim and sickly yellow. Through the glass door, I saw the attendant again. Only this time, his uniform was charred black. His face blistered, half-melted, dripping. He lifted a hand slowly, beckoning me to come inside. My stomach lurched as I realized the truth. His lips moved, and for the first time I heard his voice. "You shouldn't be here. They won't let you leave." The truck's horn blared again, shaking the entire car. My windshield cracked down the middle, the glass trembling under invisible pressure. My ears rang. My nose bled harder, and my vision blurred. The whispers swarmed around me like insects, crawling into my skull, filling me with one thought, repeating over and over again. "You're already dead?" The attendant pressed his burned face against the glass from inside the station, and with that grotesque smile, he whispered something that made my stomach turn to ice. "Check your back seat." My hands trembled on the wheel, sweat stinging my eyes. I didn't want to look. Every nerve in my body screamed against it. But the words from the burned attendant echoed like a curse inside my head. "Check your back seat." Slowly, as if dragging myself through thick water, I turned my head. The back seat was empty. Relief crashed over me, so strong I almost laughed. My chest heaved, my lungs clawing for air. But as I blinked, the glass of the rearview mirror rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. The reflection shifted, and there he was. The attendant's scorched, half-melted face stared back at me, seated calmly in the back seat. His jaw dangled loose, skin sloughing off in strips, teeth glinting like broken glass. But when I spun around again, nothing. Empty. A scream caught in my throat. The reflection grinned wider, impossibly wide, until his jaw cracked apart, stretching all the way down to his chest. Then he spoke, his voice coming not from the mirror, not from the back seat, but from inside my head. "We all burned here, and now, you burn too." The truck behind me roared. Its headlights blazed brighter than the sun, flooding the car. My windshield shattered inward with a violent bang, glass slicing across my face and arms. I shielded my eyes, choking on the smell. Smoke. Thick, acrid, suffocating smoke. The gas station was no longer in front of me. It was around me. Flames licked the walls. The roof caved inward, timbers cracking and collapsing. I wasn't in my car anymore. I was inside the station, trapped in its final burning moments. Screams echoed from every corner, dozens of them overlapping, tearing through my eardrums. Shadows of customers writhed in fire, their bodies collapsing into ash. I staggered, coughing, choking on the smoke, my skin seared from the heat. Through the blaze, I saw the attendant again. He wasn't burned anymore. His uniform was clean, his face whole, his eyes no longer empty but alive, sorrowful. He raised a trembling hand toward me. "I tried to stop them," he whispered. "But they locked the doors. They left us to die. And now, no one leaves." The flames surged higher, My lungs screamed for air. The walls folded inward, fire racing across the floor toward me. I bolted for the door, shoving with all my strength. It didn't budge. I slammed my fists, skin peeling, voice breaking into raw screams. Behind me, dozens of charred hands erupted from the fire, grabbing, clawing, digging into my skin, my arms, my throat. Their melted faces pressed close, eyes wide with endless hunger. The attendant stood behind them all, his face twisting back into that waxy smile. His voice thundered in my skull. "We warned you. No one ever leaves." The last thing I felt was fire crawling across my body, flesh melting, bone cracking, until the world collapsed into black. When I woke, I was standing behind the station's glass door. My reflection in the dusty glass showed my skin burned, my eyes hollow, my smile grotesquely wide. Headlights cut across the lot. A car pulled in, slowing by the pumps. I pressed my face against the window, waiting, and I smiled. The world ended for me somewhere on a desolate stretch of highway in West Texas. It wasn't a bang or a whimper, but a silent, creeping madness that began in the flickering glow of a gas station sign. My name is Robin. I took the job at the last known gas station for 100 miles outside of Odessa because I needed to disappear. My past wasn't a criminal one, but a ghost I couldn't outrun. A mistake I made, a friend I failed. The details aren't important. What matters is the crushing loneliness I craved, the penance I thought this isolation would provide. I was the night watchman, and this gas station, with its humming pumps and the endless blacktop stretching to nowhere, was my self-made purgatory. The first week was uneventful, a blur of silent cars and faceless drivers who just wanted to fill up and leave. But on the 8th night, things changed. It was around 2 a.m. when a beat-up sedan pulled up to the far pump. The driver, a tall, gaunt man with a face like a dried-up riverbed, got out and stared at me. He didn't pump gas. He just stood there, his eyes fixed on me through the thick glass of the convenience store window. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just watched. A chill crawled up my spine. I went back to stocking the shelves, trying to ignore him. But then, a voice echoed in my head, as clear as if he were standing next to me. "You think you've outrun it? You can't outrun your own shadow, Robin." I froze. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs. The man was still standing there, motionless, his face still a stone mask. But his mouth hadn't moved. The voice was in my head and it knew my name. The man finally finished his silent, unnerving ritual and got back in his car. He didn't pay for the gas he hadn't pumped. The car's engine growled to life, and as it pulled away, I saw something in the passenger seat. A blurry shape that looked like a man with a broken neck, his head lolling to the side. I laughed it off as a trick of the light, the sleep deprivation finally getting to me. I was wrong. The next night, the gas station was a ghost town. Not a single car passed for hours. The only sound was the incessant hum of the refrigerators and the buzzing of the fluorescent lights. The silence felt heavy, oppressive, as if the air itself was holding its breath. I felt a prickling sensation on the back of my neck. I looked at the security camera monitor. The grainy black and white feed showed nothing out of the ordinary. The front door, the pumps, the empty parking lot, all still. But then a detail caught my eye. A figure stood by the ice machine, its back to the camera. It was a woman, small and thin. I didn't recognize her, and I knew every single one of my regular customers. She was dressed in an old-fashioned floral dress that seemed to shimmer in the low light. I walked over to the front door and looked out. The woman was gone. The only thing in the parking lot was my own dusty truck. I sighed, convinced my mind was playing tricks on me. As I turned to walk away, a reflection in the glass caught my eye. It wasn't my reflection. It was the woman from the camera. She was standing right behind me, her eyes empty black holes, her mouth a grotesque stretched-out smile. I stumbled back, my mind screaming. When I looked again, the reflection was mine. I was alone. A chill wind swept through the door, rattling the shelves. I was not alone. They were here. I had brought them here, and they knew who I was. And they had come to remind me that no matter how far you run, the past always finds you, and it never, ever lets go. I scrambled away from the door, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. My reflection was back, but the memory of the woman's grotesque face was seared into my mind. I knew what I had seen. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was a deliberate act of malevolence. They were here, and they knew my secrets. The silence of the gas station was suddenly shattered by the shrill ring of the old payphone next to the soda fountain. I stared at it, frozen. The phone was a relic, a rusted piece of metal that hadn't worked in years. But it rang again, a desperate, demanding sound that cut through the humming darkness. I slowly moved towards it, my hand trembling as I picked up the receiver. A voice, thick with static and a horrifying gurgling sound, spoke from the other end. "You left him, Robin. You left him alone. Just like you left me." My blood ran cold. The voice was unrecognizable, yet the words were like a blade in my gut. I slammed the phone back into its cradle. The ringing stopped, but the echo of the words lingered in the stagnant air. I was breathing hard, my mind racing. Who was him? Who was me? The past I thought I had buried was digging its way to the surface, clawing its way back to me. A sudden gust of wind rattled the shelves, and the fluorescent lights flickered violently. The hum of the refrigerators became a guttural growl. The gas station was alive. It was angry. Through the glass I saw a car pull up to the pumps. My mind screamed at me to lock the door, to hide, but my body refused to move. The driver's side door opened, and a man stepped out. He was dressed in a worn-out baseball uniform, and a cap covered his face in shadow. He was carrying a bag, a heavy duffel bag that dragged on the concrete. I knew him. I knew him, and the recognition was a punch to the stomach. It was Mark, the friend I had failed, the mistake I had run from. He slowly walked towards the store, his head down, the duffel bag scraping the ground with a sickening sound. I backed away from the counter, my hands shaking. He reached the door and stopped, his head still lowered. He didn't look at me, but I felt his eyes on me. "Hey, Robin," he said, his voice a distorted, choked whisper. "Got a minute?" I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry and my throat was a stone. He slowly raised his head and I saw his face. It wasn't Mark's face. It was a distorted, decaying version of him, his skin peeling away in strips, his eyes hollowed out black holes. The duffel bag he was carrying had a horrifying lump at the bottom. The lump shifted and a muffled, desperate cry came from inside. I stumbled back, my hands flying to my mouth to stifle a scream. He just smiled, a horrifying grin that stretched across his decaying face. He raised a hand and the door behind him slammed shut with a final echoing thud. The lights went out completely, plunging the gas station into a terrifying darkness broken only by the dim light of the moonlight and the flickering glow of the monitors. I was trapped. And my past, my guilt, my mistake, it had all come for me. Mark's ghost was here, but he wasn't alone. He was a harbinger, and they were all coming for me. The lights went out and a wave of pure, absolute darkness crashed over me. The only light left came from the emergency exit sign and the faint, flickering glow of the security monitors. In that near-total blackness, Mark's twisted face was a grotesque beacon of my terror. He raised his hand and the door slammed shut. I was trapped. A chilling chorus of whispers filled the air, seeming to come from every aisle, every shelf, every corner of the store. They were the voices of my failures, the friends I had betrayed, the people I had hurt. They were a symphony of my guilt, and they were all closing in. "You said you'd be there," a child's voice whispered from the snack aisle. "You promised." I knew that voice. It was the friend I had left stranded in a car accident years ago, a promise I had broken. Another voice, a woman's, hissed from the soda fountain. "You never called me back, Robin. You let me fall." It was the memory of a relationship I had walked away from without a word. And through it all, Mark's distorted grin remained. He slowly reached down and unzipped the duffel bag, pulling out the source of the muffled cries I had heard earlier. It was a doll, a child's doll with Mark's face, its head lolling to the side, just like the shadow I saw in the car. It was the effigy of my guilt, a twisted version of the innocent friendship I had destroyed. "He's tired of waiting," Mark's ghost rasped. "Aren't you tired of running, Robin?" I was. I was so tired. My mind, my body, my spirit. It was all exhausted. I had run from my past, from my guilt, and I had ended up here. This gas station wasn't a punishment, it was a mirror. The people I was seeing were not ghosts. They were fragments of my past, given form and life by the gas station's unique, terrifying nature. They were my own dark secrets, my own regrets, made manifest. The true horror was not that they were here. The true horror was that they had been inside me all along. I stumbled toward Mark, my hands reaching for the duffel bag. I had to destroy it. I had to destroy the physical representation of my guilt. Mark's ghost laughed, a horrifying, gurgling sound that echoed through the empty store. He didn't resist. He just stood there, his face a canvas of my own shame. I grabbed the bag and threw it at the concrete wall, a desperate final act of defiance. The bag hit the wall with a sickening thud, and the doll's face shattered into 1,000 pieces. The whispers stopped. The growling of the refrigerators ceased. The lights came back on, bright and sterile. I was alone. Mark's ghost was gone. The duffel bag lay empty and ripped on the floor. I had done it. I had survived. I had finally won. I walked to the door and unlocked it. The fresh night air hit my face, a cool relief. I stepped outside and looked around. The gas station was just a gas station, empty, silent. I got into my truck and started the engine. The radio came to life, but instead of music, it was just static. A low, distorted whisper came from the speakers, a whisper that was both mine and Mark's. It was the echo of my last thought before I ran. "You can't outrun your own shadow, Robin." I drove away from the gas station, leaving the darkness behind. But I never left. The gas station was not a place. It was a state of being, and I, the night watchman, am forever trapped within it. I am the gas station. I am the silence. I am the ghosts. And I am forever on watch, waiting for the next car to pull up to my pumps, waiting for my next victim to arrive. It was just past midnight when I realized I was running on fumes. My old sedan wheezed and groaned as I pulled over to the side of a near-empty highway in Massachusetts. The GPS showed a tiny dot labeled gas station a few miles ahead, barely on the map. The sky was an angry shade of black, broken only by the occasional flicker of distant city lights, and I could feel the emptiness pressing on me. The road signs were sparse. No other cars. Just me and that distant blinking red neon sign, buzzing weakly in the darkness. Last fill. As I pulled in, a chill crawled up my spine. The pumps looked older than anything I'd seen. Rusted metal, cracked hoses, and an odd, almost musty smell hung in the air. The station itself seemed abandoned. But then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A shadow darted past the office window. I stepped out of the car, my shoes crunching on the gravel. The cold wind carried a metallic tang. The doors of the small station were slightly ajar, and I swear I heard a faint whisper. "Fuel. You need fuel." Shaking my head, I told myself I was imagining it. People always scare themselves on empty highways. I grabbed the pump and started filling the tank. That's when I noticed something strange. The numbers on the meter weren't moving consistently. The digits flickered back and forth like a broken neon sign. I looked up toward the building. In the faint glow, I saw the shadow again, this time standing closer. Its figure was vaguely human, but wrong. Its head tilted in a way no human head could tilt. Its eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, reflecting the red neon like molten coals. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. No reply. Just silence. I finished pumping, slammed the handle back, and ran toward the office, hoping to pay and leave immediately. But the door, when I tried to open it, wouldn't budge. The shadow stepped forward slowly, and I felt an unbearable pressure in my chest, as if the air itself had thickened. Then I noticed the pumps around me. The handles were moving slightly, almost twitching, like they were alive. The hoses shifted, curling in ways they shouldn't. I stumbled backward into my car and locked the doors. Through the windshield, I could see the shadow, now several steps closer, slowly advancing toward me. A guttural whisper broke the silence, chilling me to the bone. "You'll never leave." I started the car, my hands trembling, but the engine sputtered weakly. The headlights flickered, and then, all at once, went out. Total darkness. And in that darkness, I felt it. Something climbing onto the roof of my car. Heavy, wet footsteps. Something was standing there, just above me, pressing down. My breath caught, my heart pounded, and I could hear the whisper again, louder, closer. "Fuel? You're the fuel now." I slammed my eyes shut, gripping the steering wheel, trying to convince myself I was dreaming. But the weight didn't go away. I could hear nails scraping on the metal roof and an icy voice murmuring my name over and over. Suddenly, the neon sign flickered violently and went out. The shadow disappeared. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I blinked. My heart still racing, I dared to look around. The station looked empty again. The pumps were still, the gravel undisturbed, the air just cold and heavy. But now, there was a small, almost imperceptible stain of black liquid on the ground beneath my car. I didn't know what it was, but instinct screamed at me to leave. I put the key in the ignition. The engine roared back to life. I tore out of that gravel lot, my tires screeching, not daring to look back. But even as I merged onto the highway, the feeling followed me. The weight, the whisper, the eyes watching from the darkness. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. I couldn't shake the image of that shadow on my roof. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, I half expected to see it clinging there, its glowing eyes staring back at me. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, an empty ribbon of asphalt beneath the moonless sky. I decided I had to stop somewhere safer, a lit area, maybe a town. But as I drove, something unnerving happened. The radio, dead moments ago, flickered to life. A low, garbled voice whispered over static, "You shouldn't have left. You belong here." My hands gripped the wheel tighter, heart pounding. I glanced at the GPS again. The dot marking the gas station was gone. No matter how I scrolled and zoomed, it had vanished entirely. I knew then it wasn't just a gas station, it was something else, something alive. Desperation made me take the next exit. A small diner appeared ahead, its sign flickering weakly. Miller's Diner, 24 hours. Relief washed over me. I pulled into the empty parking lot and ran inside. The diner was strange. Everything was perfectly clean, almost sterile. The smell of coffee and grease hung in the air, but it was faint, like a memory. Behind the counter, a man appeared. Or maybe wasn't entirely human. His skin had a faint grayish tint and his eyes, oh God, his eyes glowed the same faint red as the shadow at the gas station. "Welcome," he said in a voice that didn't quite fit his mouth, like it came from the floor. "You're lucky to have arrived." I just need some coffee, and maybe directions," I stammered. He smiled, a slow, cruel curl of his lips. "No one ever leaves here the way they arrive." Chills shot down my spine. I tried to back away, but my legs felt heavy. The floor beneath me creaked and shifted like water. I turned, just in time to see something moving outside the window. The gas station, or at least what I thought was gone. Its pumps were writhing like living things, the hoses stretching toward the diner like tentacles. I ran toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own. The attendant, or whatever he was, glided toward me, his shadow stretching impossibly long across the floor. "You tried to leave," he said, "but you brought the fuel with you." "What? What do you mean?" I choked out. He raised a hand, and I felt a pressure inside my chest, like my heartbeat was being squeezed. My vision blurred. Then, horrifyingly, I saw it. The black liquid from the gas station, now spilling from my car tires, creeping toward the diner door, moving like it had a mind. I screamed, pounding on the glass, but the liquid seeped inside, pooling around my feet. The smell was unbearable, burning rubber, metal, something alive. And the whispers started again, louder, countless voices. "Fuel, fuel, fuel." I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed. Then, instinct kicked in. I grabbed a heavy chair and swung it at the door. It shattered. I bolted into the night, running past the writhing black liquid that licked at my heels. I didn't look back until I reached my car. Engine turned over, tires gripping asphalt like my life depended on it, which it did. I drove through the night, keeping eyes on the horizon. But even as dawn began to break, I could still see faint shadows in the corners of my rearview mirror. The red eyes, the whispering voices, and I realized something terrifying. Leaving the highway didn't save me. It brought the darkness with me. The gas station hadn't been a place. It had been a predator. And now, I carried its hunger with me. I drove through the early morning haze, each mile feeling heavier than the last. My hands ached from gripping the wheel, my eyes dry from staring into the shadows that lingered at the edge of my vision. The sun rose slowly, pale and sickly, revealing the endless stretch of highway that seemed to go nowhere. The gas station, its pumps writhing like living things, its hoses reaching for me, was gone from the horizon. But I could still feel it. Deep in my chest, an unnatural hunger pulsed like it had attached itself to me. My phone rang. I jumped, fumbling to answer it. "Hello?" I whispered. A woman's voice, soft, trembling, almost pleading. "Don't stop. Don't let it catch you." Before I could reply, the line went dead. But in my rearview mirror, I saw it again. The shadow. Thin, tall, stretching impossibly across the lanes. Red eyes burning into my soul. I slammed my foot on the accelerator. Tires screeched against asphalt. But no matter how fast I drove, the shadow stayed, just behind, just waiting. Then I realized the highway wasn't empty. Cars appeared out of nowhere, rusted, broken, headlights dim, all driven by shadows. They moved with purpose, aligning behind me like predators circling prey. Panic gripped me. I tried taking an exit, any exit, but the signs were gone. The road ahead twisted unnaturally, loops and turns that shouldn't exist. And the whispers. Oh God, the whispers. They came from every car, every shadow, every breath of wind. Fuel, fuel, fuel. I remembered the diner, the gas station, the black liquid, everything. The attendant, the hoses, the red eyes. And the realization hit me like a hammer. I hadn't escaped. I had carried it with me. Its hunger was now mine, or mine was now his. I couldn't tell anymore. I glanced at my dashboard. My fuel gauge was full. But I knew better. This wasn't normal gasoline. This was something alive. Something that fed on fear, driving, and shadows. The shadow lunged forward. I felt it in the car, crawling over the tires, the metal, the very air. A whisper hissed in my ear, unmistakably close, impossibly close. "You cannot outrun me." And then I saw them, the other cars, the drivers. Faces pressed to windows, pale, eyes wide in terror. But their mouths didn't move. Their hands were tight on the steering wheels. They were trapped. And now I was joining them. I slammed the car into the median, swerving violently. For a moment, the shadow recoiled. I saw an exit sign, glowing faintly. Rest stop 47, 1 mile. I tore down the road, tires smoking. The shadow surged again, faster, angrier. I reached the rest stop, leaping from the car just as it came to life, hoses lashing toward me like black snakes. I ran into the bathroom, heart hammering, lungs burning. Inside, I locked the door. I stared at my reflection in the cracked mirror. The first thing I noticed was my eyes. They were faintly red. The second, my hands, they dripped with black liquid, the same that had crawled across the diner floor. A whisper filled the room, soft, mocking. "You're part of it now." I pounded on the door, screaming for someone, anyone. But outside, only the sound of tires on asphalt, the hiss of a whispering highway, and a darkness that had no end. And then I understood. This wasn't a gas station, not a diner, not even a shadow. It was the highway itself. It fed on travelers, on fear, on fuel. And now it had me. I ran to the edge of the rest stop, staring into the empty asphalt ahead. Every car, every shadow, every whisper was waiting. And I knew, no matter where I turned, the highway would follow, endlessly hungry, endlessly patient. The last thing I heard before the darkness consumed me was the hiss of the whisper, "Welcome to the eternal road."